For centuries, Egyptian myths have been dismissed as fantasy or symbolic allegory. But there may be a deeper layer of meaning that's been hiding in plain sight. Quantum physics has revealed that reality is unstable, flexible, and deeply influenced by the observer. In ancient writings, we find similar ideas, not described in equations, but encoded in symbols, rituals, and archetypes. To the Egyptians, time wasn't a straight line, it was a cycle. Death wasn't an ending, but a passage. And the gods, they weren't simply divine characters. They represented states of consciousness, invisible forces constantly interacting. Today, we'll explore what happens when these two languages, modern science and ancient spirituality, intersect. Not to prove a point, but to see what emerges from the meeting of the unseen mind and the unseen matter. If this kind of reflection resonates with you, consider subscribing and turning on notifications. That way, YouTube will keep showing you more content that expands your perspective without falling into shallow mysticism or blind skepticism. Quantum physics has challenged nearly everything we thought we knew about the universe. It's shown us that matter can exist in two places at once, that time isn't as linear as we once believed, and that reality itself may depend on how we look at it. Thousands of years earlier, civilizations like ancient Egypt spoke of multiple realities, unseen gateways, and a soul that could travel between realms. Not with formulas, but with symbols. Not with experiments, but with stories. This raises an uncomfortable question. Were these traditions describing something real, just in a different language? We're not talking about magic or pseudoscience. We're talking about patterns, about symbolic and spiritual structures that, by coincidence or not, line up with what modern science has begun to discover. In this video, we'll explore those connections. We'll look at how Egyptian concepts of consciousness, duality, transformation, and order can mirror ideas like quantum entanglement, superposition, and the role of the observer, not as mystical proof, but as an open-ended exploration, where the past might illuminate what we're only starting to understand. After all, you don't have to believe in something to think about it. And sometimes, linking the ancient to the modern isn't about chasing answers, it's about learning to ask better questions. What's your take? Do you think science and spirituality can genuinely have a conversation? At the heart of ancient Egypt was a principle that held everything together: Maat. Maat wasn't just a goddess. She embodied balance, harmony, the cosmic order itself. Everything, from the motion of the stars to the judgment of souls in the afterlife, depended on her being upheld. The idea that the universe needs balance sounds simple, but look closer. For the Egyptians, balance wasn't static. It was dynamic, alive, interconnected. Every human action rippled outward into the cosmos. A just deed reinforced Maat. Even the smallest wrong could disrupt it. That worldview has surprising parallels to one of quantum physics' core concepts, entanglement. On a subatomic level, two particles can behave as if they're linked, no matter how far apart they are. Across miles, across light years. Change one, and the other reacts instantly. It's as if there's an invisible thread beyond time and space. Now, consider the Egyptian view of humanity. Humans were bridges between worlds. Death wasn't an erasure, it was a passage. The soul would journey through other realms, face symbolic trials, and ultimately have its heart weighed against the feather of Maat to determine its fate. This ritual wasn't just myth, it was a mental model, a framework for understanding the consequences of choices. Curiously, it mirrors the collapse of the wave function in quantum mechanics. In quantum physics, a particle can exist in multiple possible states until it's observed. The act of observation determines what it chooses to be. Looking changes the outcome. It's unsettling, but it echoes something the Egyptians seemed to know. Reality is shaped by consciousness. The heart must be in balance because it's both a mirror and a creator of inner and outer reality. This brings us to another powerful figure in Egyptian mythology, Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, time, and measurement. Thoth was the universe's record keeper. Everything that happened, he documented. But his role went deeper. He guarded what the gods called truth. Truth here wasn't simply factual accuracy. It was alignment, a resonance between the essence of things and the way they were expressed. Thoth ensured coherence between the unseen and the seen, between the world of ideas and the world of matter. This tension is also at the heart of quantum physics. How do we translate into the tangible world the behavior of things that defy classical rules? How do we accept that a particle can tunnel through barriers, or that empty space is actually buzzing with potential? To the modern, linear mind, that sounds irrational. But for the ancients, paradox wasn't a flaw, it was a feature. The gods themselves were complex, often dual in nature. Their myths didn't resolve contradictions, they honored them. Isis and Osiris embody this dance between death and rebirth. Osiris is killed and torn apart by Set, the force of chaos. Isis, representing loving order, gathers his fragments and brings him back. From their union comes Horus, the rebirth of light, the victory of clear vision. This cycle isn't just poetic, it resembles the way particles collapse and re-emerge in new states, depending on the context. And the temples? They weren't just places of worship, they were initiation chambers. Every hallway, every carved symbol, every hidden room represented a step in the initiate's inner journey. One had to walk through mystery, face inner shadows, and learn to see through illusion. Lessons weren't handed out as direct answers. They were experienced, lived, like a quantum system collapsing into a new reality through interaction. In fact, this resonates with one of the most famous quantum experiments, the double-slit experiment. When electrons are fired at a barrier with two slits, they act like waves if unobserved, passing through both slits simultaneously and creating an interference pattern. But when measured, they behave like particles. It's as if they know they're being watched. The implication? The observer's awareness alters the outcome. Mind shapes matter's manifestation. In Egyptian initiation, there was a stage where the initiate was left in complete darkness, literally, sometimes for hours, sometimes days, alone, in silence, in a sealed chamber. This wasn't about testing physical endurance. It was about triggering an internal collapse, stripping away external distractions so the mind could become the quantum observer of its own state. Light and shadow, noise and silence. Quantum physics speaks of duality. Egyptian myth lived duality as a path to expansion. Two vastly different traditions, separated by thousands of years, converge on a single point. The universe is sensitive to perception, and perhaps the sacred, the scientific, and the symbolic have always been speaking about the same thing. They've just been using different languages. Science usually moves carefully, step by step, building on what's proven, but sometimes it stumbles into territory that feels more like philosophy than math. And when it does, it starts to echo ancient stories that have been with us all along, waiting to be reinterpreted. Among those stories, one stands out: the journey of the soul. In ancient Egypt, the human being was seen as having multiple aspects. The Ka, the vital force; the Ba, the mobile personality, free to travel between worlds; and the Ak, a luminous, transformed state that emerged after death, or after deep inner change. These three layers aren't far from what some modern scientists describe as levels of consciousness: the instinctive mind, the rational mind, and the expanded mind, the part that can observe itself observing. This threefold model also appears in quantum mechanics, though expressed differently. Potential state, wave function collapse, decoherence. It always begins with possibility. Then something happens, a measurement, an interaction, and reality decides. After that, it stabilizes until the cycle begins again. That cycle also runs through Egyptian cosmology. The universe is born from none, the primordial ocean. From chaos, Atum emerges, the creator. With him comes order, time, and the material world. But that world is fragile. It constantly teeters on the edge of returning to chaos. This mirrors the instability of quantum systems. An excited electron doesn't stay that way forever. It decays. The Egyptians seem to understand. Creation and dissolution are in perpetual balance. Look at the temples of Karnak and Luxor. They weren't just architecture. They were symbolic landscapes. Every column, every chamber, every alignment with the sun marked a deeper meaning. It's as if the temple was a spiritual algorithm guiding the visitor through a sequence of inner activations. Many scholars believe these temples weren't built solely for worship, but for transformation, to reshape the initiate's awareness. Today, we ask similar questions about the human brain. Is it just a biological processor? Or, as some physicists and neuroscientists suggest, could it be a system capable of accessing non-local layers of reality? This idea, still controversial, imagines the mind as something not confined to the brain. The brain, in this view, would be more like an antenna than a generator. Here, we return to Thoth. He wasn't just a scribe. He measured the soul's frequency. He weighed its resonance and asked, is this consciousness in harmony with reality or out of tune? In modern science, we measure vibrations in particles. We analyze the wave-like behavior of light, matter, and even the mysterious dark energy. But we still can't measure the vibration of intention. And yet, in ancient traditions, intention was central. What you feel, what you think, that's what you project into the world. And what you project shapes the reality that returns to you. In quantum mechanics, there's something called the delayed choice experiment. It suggests that the way you choose to observe a system can influence its behavior, even after the event has already occurred. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real physics. This bending of time's apparent order recalls the Egyptian concepts of Jet and Nehe. Jet was fixed, linear time. Nehe was eternal, cyclical time. One is measured by clocks, the other is felt. We live by the ticking of linear time. But maybe there are deeper layers, where events unfold not on a line, but on a spiral. And here lies perhaps the deepest bridge between quantum physics and Egyptian myth. Both remind us that reality isn't a straight path, it's a woven tapestry. Some threads we can see, others remain hidden. When you think, feel, or decide, something changes. Not because there's a magical field waiting for your commands, but because consciousness, as the most delicate experiments show, interferes with probabilities. Did the Egyptians know this? Maybe not in our terms, but in their symbols, images, and myths, they left hints that reality is more sensitive than it appears, more malleable than we like to admit. Modern physics is just beginning to grapple with this. Ancient spirituality may never have forgotten it. There's a question in physics that still has no answer. Why does the universe exist at all? It sounds simple, but it hides something unsettling because everything science knows today starts from a strange fact. The universe should have been perfectly symmetrical. If matter and antimatter were truly equal, they would have destroyed each other in the first instant after the Big Bang. And yet, here we are. Planets, stars, people. How? That tiny asymmetry remains one of the biggest mysteries in science. And maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with a deeper truth about consciousness we haven't yet uncovered. If you want to keep exploring these boundaries between the visible and the invisible, watch the next video that's about to appear on your screen. There's more waiting for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.